Hey adventurers, so today is going to be another book review. This is going to be for Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. This is a book that is a classic. Some people call it science fiction. I'm not sure that I completely agree with that because there's not a whole ton of science to it. It's just calculation, it's just math. And which I understand those things tie together extremely closely, but it's the type of math that any human could do that has much learning in the way of adding, essentially, because that's really all that happens in it. So it's not terribly science fiction-y to me, but I know a lot of people do consider it to be science fiction. So Around the World in 80 Days is a classic novel that most people know about, but I feel like unless they've actually read it, they don't really know what this book is about. And I know that I certainly didn't. I mean, I know that there's a book called Around the World in 80 Days in which a man wanted to travel around the world in 80 days. That's literally all that I knew about it. And that there was something to do with a hot air balloon at some point, maybe. I don't know. I'll get to that in a moment. Before I continue on to the main body of this review though, here I'd just quickly like to say if you're liking what you're seeing from an Erudite adventure, we'd really appreciate it if you'd like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, so this actually tells two stories. This book actually tells two stories. The first is that of Phileas Fogg, a wealthy but eccentric man, obsessed with time and order. He makes a bet that he could completely encircle the globe, travel around the globe, in 80 days, having done all the calculations that tell him that this is indeed possible. He then sets off on this globe-trotting adventure, and as he's traveling, he runs into many obstacles to his objective and loses quite a bit of time. However, he did plan for the possibility of this, and so instead of giving up, he continues his journey. If he hadn't planned for the potential of losing time in certain places, then he should just give up because he can't completely go around the world in 80 days like he made this bet that he could. Then the other story is that of a detective who is chasing after a man who has just robbed a bank. He bore a strong resemblance to Phileas Fogg, and so the detective puts two and two together and assumes that this man, who is now gallivanting across the world with seemingly unlimited resources, must be the robber. Like, that's not a hard stretch. He looks like him, he just kind of appeared, nobody knows much about him, and he seems to have unlimited resources and is just spending money willy-nilly here and there. It makes sense that you'd think, okay, maybe this Phileas Fogg is this robber. So off he goes, chasing him around the world. I had so much fun reading this book, or listening to this book actually. It's not a long book, and it took me less than a day to listen to it, but I was just completely engrossed in this tale the whole time. I mean, you go to these exotic locations, and obviously they're probably not portrayed perfectly, and in most instances I know that they're not. Still, it's just really fun to experience this story along with these characters. It's really not the deepest or most moving story ever told or anything like that, but it is a lot of fun. It's fast-paced, and you really feel the rush of this deadline as he gets closer and closer to this 80 days, but he hasn't made it all the way around the world yet, and is he going to make it back in time? It's a question that needs answered. Overall though, I'm just super glad that I finally read this book, but it is important to note that even though pretty much everything you see about this book implies that at some point Phileas Fogg rides in a hot air balloon, and that's not actually the case. He never does. So I don't know where that came from or how that started. It does briefly mention a hot air balloon at one point in time, but I don't even remember what it says about it. It's something like he talks about why that wouldn't work, why a hot air balloon wouldn't work or something like that. And so I don't know how or why everybody has this image of a hot air balloon going along with this book. Anyways, that is my review for Around the World in 80 Days. Fairly short review. It's a fairly short book. It's classic. I don't have a lot that needs to be said about this book. 205 pages for my edition here that I got for like 90 cents, 99 cents or something like that. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, and have our social medias linked in the description down below. We'll see you guys again soon. Stay warm.